Tube lights are very handy tools for image making and are usually great for fitting into tight spaces, representing and exaggerating smaller light sources in a convenient way. But when it comes to longer tube lights, it's easy to think of these as a little over the top and just a way to create stylized looks. And they are great for this, but they wouldn't be suitable for something more natural or subtle. But actually, this isn't quite true. Longer tubes are useful for more than just stylized looks, and can help you to create images more naturally, efficiently, and congruent to your scene. As the viewer of a scene, we don't tend to think about lighting. If the image makes sense with the context given, or the environment shown within the scene, we have no reason to think about lighting. The image presents what it needs to present. It tells the story it needs to tell. However, if we're watching to better understand lighting, we might take some guesses as to the lights and techniques used. In this case, we can probably imagine a large soft source, motivated by the window, and that large soft source is most likely present in all three of these shots. Maybe we've got a light firing through a large piece of diffusion. But when we analyse lighting like this, we're not necessarily connecting what we learn with our own limitations. This might well be lit through diffusion, but if we want to shoot in a tighter space with no way to place lights outside the room, how do we get a good coverage across our diffusion and maintain the softness of our lights? Well, we've got ourselves some long tube lights as mentioned in the intro. This fixture in particular is the Godox TL180, which has all the same features as the other tube lights in the TL series, including bicolor, RGB, and effects. As per its name, the TL180 measures 180 centimeters, or around 5 foot 11 inches. To light a shot of our subject stood in front of the window, we simply placed two of these tubes horizontally, and threw up a large piece of one-stop diffusion fabric. This gives us a large soft source with which to extend the daylight from the window and provides light onto our subject, with both tubes set to 6500 Kelvin to better match the colour temperature of the gloomy overcast day outside. Take a look at the previous similar shot we lit in the same location, and notice how much space we've saved just by using long tubes. Our subject has more room, and it gives us more flexibility in how wide we can go with our frame, if necessary. Even though we're taking up less space, we're still able to cover enough of our diffusion to match the dimensions of the window, and create a soft wrap of light around our subject's face. And this shape even works on a subtle level, as the reflection in the eyes match up with the length of the window. At 100% power on an overcast day, our two TL180s were able to achieve an appropriate exposure on our subject through diffusion. But if we want some more power out of them, we may want to add some more units to the mix. In the wider shot of our subject walking to the chair, and then him sitting down, it seems like we could have just used the already existing light from the window. And it does make sense to just use the window light, as it would already be lighting the scene from the correct location. But if the exposure of this window light changes due to weather or time of day, we're going to be battling with our camera to keep exposure and colour temperature consistent. One solution would be to place lights outside with diffusion across the window, but sometimes this isn't possible due to weather, space limitations, or maybe we're on the second floor. So we used the TL180 quad light bracket holder, which holds 4 TL180 tubes. This was set up in place of the window, with the natural light blocked out. Again, with our one-stop diffusion placed in front. You can see how the size and shape of this setup is similar to the way the actual window shape and overcast sky lights the location. And although the light fall-off levels are a little different than real natural light would be, it serves the purpose of the scene and creates a replication of the window light, replacing it and allowing us to light our sequence with consistency. The shot of our subject sitting down utilised the same setup, with a floppy flag set up near the camera, acting as negative fill to create some shadow and a little contrast on his face. Now, we don't always have to diffuse tubes. We can take advantage of how a tube shapes light by itself, with no modifiers. Due to the dimensions of a tube, we get a softer wrap of light horizontally when our tube is sideways, and a softer wrap vertically when our tube is upright. The horizontal tube can see around our subject more, causing a softer horizontal shadow transition and a harder vertical one. And the vertical tube can see more over and under, causing a softer vertical shadow transition and a harder horizontal one. We can take advantage of the shape of this light in a few different situations. So something as simple as this shot was actually lit using just the TL180 tubes themselves. We can see how they help to light the scene if we turn them all off, and then turn them on, one by one. You can see the evening sky outside was giving us a contrasty key light on the face, but barely lighting our room. Using one of the TL180's mount adapters, we used a super clamp to attach our TL180 to the curtain rail above the window. Since the tube extends across the whole length of the window, it gives a starting point with which to extend the evening light from the window, adding some more exposure into the room and providing some fill light to the shadows on the face as it wraps around horizontally and bounces around the walls. We set up a second TL180, simply propped up vertically, just off camera, to add some more fill light into the shadow side of our subject's face. Using the tube vertically rather than horizontally meant we could subtly fill in the shadows on the face without wrapping too much light around it and into the room. Finally, we boomed a third TL180 above the scene, providing a subtle lift to the shadows horizontally across the room, adding a little exposure to the book, the top of the subject's back, and the table. Originally, we had our tube set to 6500 Kelvin, but this was a little warm compared to the cool evening sky. So we used the RGB mode on the tubes and roughly matched up the colour of the tubes to the already existing light coming through the window. You can see how we've subtly shaped the light in the room using the size and orientation of the TL180s, enhancing the evening light from the window, making use of the portability and flexibility of the tube's length, shape and mounting abilities, with minimum space needed to set up our lights. Of course, tube lights are easy to use in a scene which needs a practical light of this nature in the image itself, and can double up as a way to light the shot. Again, since we have the flexibility of the tube shape and features, we simply use some clamps to attach it to the ceiling struts of the shed, using the included cables and our own cables to get the right height. And with the longer size, we were able to cover more of the open doorway without needing to double up and attach two tubes, which would have complicated the setup. With one long tube, we keep it quick and efficient. With the TL180 set to 3200 Kelvin and 100% power, we have a good light and colour contrast between the cool, fading evening light and the warm tube from the shed, silhouetting our subject and making for a moody, contrasty image. We also used a haze machine to create the mist blowing out from inside the shed. Tube lights are great tools, and adding length to them isn't just for show, it has practical purposes, more suited toward different applications, and can save you both space and time in both smaller or bigger scenarios. Support my channel on Patreon and get ad-free extended YouTube videos, along with extra breakdowns and previews of upcoming videos. Watch parts 1, 2, 4 and 5 of my Lighting with Colour mini course here on YouTube right now. But if you want an exclusive part 3, no ads and downloadable files, head over to my website, or become a patron and stream the 46-minute tutorial. I colour grade my work using Dehancer. Use my code ROBELLIS to get 10% off. I use music from AudioSocket in my videos. Click my referral link in the video description and use the code ROBELLIS when you sign up for a free month of the best and most diverse range of stock music available. Use my code ROBELLIS over at Zyro to get up to 81% off your website or storefront, plus 3 extra months free along with a custom domain for a year.